One time, I found a pair that she didn't put in her laundry hamper and decided to wear a dirty pair of her underwear. If you like the format of such videos, please subscribe to the channel and like it. Enjoy watching, everyone. One day, my sister and I was playing in the pool together, as we pretty much did every day. What kid in the hot summer wouldn't? We did the usual games like Marco Polo, seeing how long we could keep a ball in the air out of the water while hitting it back and forth, hiding diving toys, breath-holding contests, etc. We would sometimes roughhouse a bit too. I would like to pick her up and dunk her like any annoying little brother would do, finding joy in seeing her fret about the state of her hair. But in the end, we both knew it was all good fun, and while her and our babysitter would tan on the deck, I would go in and make chicken fingers for all of us. Honey mustard sauce for me, BBQ for them. One time, the cordless phone fell in. I saw the green fuzzy outline while coming out with lunch and dove in to try and save it like I was David Hasselhoff, but alas, I am no phone saver. This was our typical everyday behavior. One day, however, while my sister and I were splashing and dunking each other, I move behind her and hold on to her as if hugging her from behind to do a suplex-type dunk when I feel a very odd sensation in my penis. It felt very fluttery and became enlarged, hard, and felt very sensitive. Obviously, this is an erection, but 6 or 7-year-old me didn't have the concept of erections introduced to him yet. When I picked her up to dunk her down, my hard penis rubbed up against the small of her lower back. It felt very good and I wanted to do it again, so I did. This time, taking a little extra while suspending her in the air to have a little more of her weight resting on it. This felt better. I don't think she knew what was going on, although I can't imagine she didn't feel my little prepubescent boner rubbing against her. It wasn't as if I stabbed her with it. It was running more parallel to the small of her back. She got up and dried off, changed the radio station and started tanning. I made chicken fingers and we went on with our day. We behaved as if nothing had happened, but in reality, I think we were just too young to understand what had just happened. I did do this exact same thing on several other isolated occasions, however, and it wasn't until I discovered one of my father's VHS pornos later on in that summer that I discovered what that thing happening down there was for. An interesting side note. In one of the videos, a man is pleasuring himself. I mimicked this action and, of course, it felt really good. I kept doing this and it kept feeling better until I had an orgasm. I was too young for any semen to develop, but the unsuspecting shock and surprise that came about from that made me avoid orgasms for the first few years I would masturbate. I would go right up until the brink of it and then just stop. I was probably the youngest member of the Tantric Sex Club, and I did it all unintentionally. Fast forward to next summer. It is her birthday, and she's having a sleepover party. There is about 6 girls she had over, and my mum would always let me have one of my buddies come over and keep me company. It is early evening, I'm guessing around 10, as the sun had fully set and was dark out. We are doing our thing upstairs, and the girls are playing outside in the pool on the trampoline. My friend gets the idea to spy on them, so we sneak out. I remember the rush I got from breaking the only rule of leave us alone. A big sister and her friends would tell her dweeby little brother, but we were breaking the rule, and it was totally awesome of us. We look out the window in my parents' room as they had the best view of our backyard. I don't remember what they were doing. I think in the living room that didn't have a view from outside. We see them all around the trampoline, some laying down as others would try and bounce them higher and higher. I knew what to do. We went downstairs and snuck through the garage. The side door from our garage led outside, where we went to the backyard, and covertly went under the deck of the pool that had just enough room for a young boy if you crouched over. We watched through the small holes in the lattice that formed the lower deck wall. We were completely hidden. Still on the rush from doing something we weren't supposed to be doing, my breathing was a little rapid. My friend tells me to calm down and be cool. I quickly and quietly hold it in, and I kid you not, after about 30 seconds of being down there, one of my sister's friends took her top off. These were all still very young, very undeveloped girls, so there wasn't much there, but I remember actually seeing a little budding of breasts. Another girl takes her top off. Another. Soon bottoms and tops are all coming off of everybody until we have 7 preteen girls completely naked jumping on and around the trampoline. My friend's lower jaw drops. Completely overstimulated by the confusion of what's going on, I find my sister. She is on the ground and is jumping up and down as there wasn't any room on the trampoline. I barely look at her body. Instead, I look at her face and all I can see is confusion and unwillingness on her expression. I can tell that she doesn't want to do this, but doesn't want to be the odd person out. All I could feel was sadness for her and had to feign happiness to my friend when, after the show that was only about 30 seconds long, stopped when my friend and I went back upstairs with him recalling the events with such excitement all along the way. This was my first experience with peer pressure, and I think is a major factor in why I never tried drugs and alcohol until I was ready to experience them for myself and not at the urging of my classmates. Shortly after this is when things started to get a little weirder for me. I was becoming a little more in tune with my sexual surroundings, but I was by no means mature. I am probably 11 in this time period with my sister, 13. We went school shopping as we would always do before classes started. My new shoes of that year were Reebok, and I was excited for them. Everything else about school shopping was usual misery for me. It would be hot, I would be tired, and I quite honestly didn't give a single care over the color of my folders and such that my sister would analyze to the degree matching a scientific peer review. This time, however, there was a new twist on things. My mom takes us into the girls' clothes department. No big deal for me, I've been dragged there many times. We go into the underwear department. I feel a little awkward about it, but again, I've been there many times, so I just behave like how any grown man behaves in Victoria's Secret. Instead of the usual underwear, like the underwear I wear, my mom and my sister start looking at bras. I had seen my mother in them a lot of times and never really gave them much thought until I saw my sister holding one up and examining it. I had never really looked at her in any other way other than my sister up until this point. Even with the previous events happening, they were all innocent and honestly beyond my control. I didn't know they were weird until reflecting on them. My sister selects a bra, we buy our items, and we head home. I had trouble sleeping that night. I remember it being 2:30 in the morning, and it was one of those hot, sticky nights that I couldn't get comfortable in. The fan by my bed did nothing. I decided to get up and get a glass of water. Our home had wood flooring that creaked, and all of our bedrooms were by each other. Whenever I would leave at night, I would step very lightly and avoided all the creaky areas as to not wake anybody up out of consideration. As I exit my room, I look into my sister's adjacent bedroom, as always a very sound sleeper. I once put her entire hand in a glass of water trying to mimic something I saw on TV, and it didn't even faze her. I see her bag of clothes on the floor by her bed. I walk in and quietly take it. There was a slight crinkle of the bag, but she, predictably, was out like a light. I take it into my room, quietly shut the door, and turn on the light. I find her bra, and I'm looking at it. I examine it from side to side, and I become aroused. Uncomfortable in my tight shorts, I take them off, and am no bottomless, holding my sister's bra fully aroused. I don't know what made me do this, but I reach in the bag again and look in. I don't really see anything else interesting to me, but upon shifting the clothes in the bag, I feel how soft her new pair of panties were. They were a little shiny and were bright pink. I put them on, and they were awesomely comfortable. I lay down in my bed and turned off the light. I looked at the ceiling and would examine the shadow formed from the moon through my window, all while gently caressing my erection through my sister's underwear. I took them off after a little while, put everything back in the bag, and quietly put them back in her room. I went back in my bed and quickly fell asleep. I felt a little shame in the morning, but this feeling was overcome by another feeling. The feeling of how good her underwear felt on me. Through the next weeks, I would go into her room at night and rifle through her underwear drawer, trying on a new pair each time. One time, I found a pair that she didn't put in her laundry hamper and decided to wear a dirty pair of her underwear. I felt more close to her. I did this for several more days and eventually just stopped. School had started and I needed the sleep now. Fast forward a year and my father's behavior finally caught up to him. Elled that house and built a new house on my grandfather's farmland. We didn't know my dad had been busted for something illegal as he never did any jail time, but we knew we were hurting for money and my parents were always stressed out. My sister was a freshman in high school. I was in junior high. I still did all the annoying little brother stuff like listening in on her phone calls and threatening to pour soda in her hair. My family has pretty big school spirit and we would always go to the football games. I listen in on one of my sister's phone calls and I hear her and a guy talking. She had told my parents that she was going to go to the game with one of her friends who could drive. This guy was trying to convince her to get a friend to come over and stay for his friend. Confused, I wrapped my sister out to my mom saying that I think she's having people come over. My mom knew about this boy and she didn't like him. My mother tells my father and he has the bright idea to perform a little reconnaissance, as he called it. We tell my sister we are leaving for the football game, when actually we went to my grandfather's house across the street and had a good view of our house. We wait there for a long time. After probably an hour, we see a car pull up and 3 guys walk in. We wait about 15 minutes and we walk in, me behind my dad. My mom was against this idea and did not join us. The TV was maximum volume and we see this guy that nobody knew drinking what I now know to be a screwdriver. Vodka OJ. He has this oh shit look on his face and my dad with a stern finger point orders him not to fucking move. He sees her bedroom door closed and knocks. There is no answer. He knocks again harder and again no answer. He starts pounding on the door, telling her to open the fucking door. In a minute, she yells back, in a voice I can tell is holding back tears. After a few more minutes of this, she finally opens. Boy inside, condom on the floor, beer on the nightstand. This particular story goes on much, much longer, but this was the first time I've ever looked at my sister in this way. It blew my mind that she was having sex, and this was really the beginning of my awareness that our family was degrading. My dad would go on more reconnaissance missions, as he no longer trusted her. She would repeatedly validate his need to do this with her equally as untrustworthy behavior in life. She fell into the wrong crowd. My father fell into a world of distrust and paranoia, and my mother and I would just kind of be in the background. I don't want to make it sound like this had some terrible affect on me. I had my own stuff going on at this point, and I honestly really didn't care all too much. The sister that I had grown to love and grew up with was way beyond removed from this current embodiment, and I had more fun playing video games than concerning myself with her problems. After a year of this, my sister wants a fresh start and goes to a neighboring high school open enrolling. The next school year I was in 8th grade and was the most senior level student at the junior high, so we all had a bit of arrogance to us. I started to become increasingly attracted to girls, and my hormones were really taking over. I probably masturbated 4 or 5 times a day on average. We did not have the internet yet, so I was left with my imagination and my father's porn mags that I found in his office that I would take caution to replace in the exact same order as I had found them. As the months rolled by, I would becoming increasingly more sexually frustrated and increasingly bored by the lack of new material when I remembered those summer nights I would take my sister's underwear. What was originally born out of curiosity and possibly a misguided effort of sibling bonding turned into an act purely out of sexual lust and desire. I would often take taken wear he underwear which had changed to the thong variety almost exclusively aside from the period panties. I loved the feel of them on my erection and would frequently wear them to bed overnight and masturbate into. I even had my favorite pair that I hid from her, never to return. I threw them away when it came time for use to move out, but that is jumping ahead. I no longer saw her as the cool big sister that I looked up to and wanted to be more like. I now saw her as the slutty bitch big sister that was putting a strain on our family. I blamed her and not our father, who ultimately was the primary source of conflict in that regard, and I honestly hated her for it. I hated her, but I was horny for her. It didn't take long for her new school to fall right back into the situation. As the old school, only this time, the guys were older and bigger losers. She could drive now, so there was even less control on her, and I was long past giving a second thought to her actions. The only thing that I was particularly interested in her was her underwear. This fetish quickly developed into a preference for the used variety, paralleling my younger self. That which I found the more odoriferous, the better. I took a particular liking to ejaculating right into the crotch area where her vagina would rest. I would then wash them off and throw them in the used laundry in the basement. I justified it as it wasn't her that turned me on. It was a vagina that was turning me on. I wanted more than anything to have sex at this point, and this was the most available outlet for me. Is this justification true? I have no idea. Surprisingly, the next year, her behavior turned around. She got put on antidepressants and was dating a boy that my family actually approved of. He was good looking, came from a family with money, played golf. I guess that's the type of man my dad would date. One thing about them though is they loved sex. They would have sex all the time. Multiple times a day with our parents right in the house even. They figured that she was probably old enough now, especially after all her mishaps earlier on, and there was no real harm in it as long as they were safe. So when her moans from her bedroom and the basement would resonate through the house, we would turn up the TV and pretend it wasn't happening. This only fueled my perversion more, but it was more of the same for me. One time, they were sitting on the couch together with me in the reclining chair adjacent to them. My sister had just gotten out of the shower and was in her robe. For some inexplicable reason, her boyfriend calls my name. As I look over, he lifts up her robe, exposing her hairy vagina to me. She had a surprised look and slapped his arm away playfully. I sheepishly just sat there and went back to watching whatever was on TV at that point. I didn't know what else to do. It didn't look like the vaginas I saw in the magazines as this one was unkempt, but it still looked great and aroused me nonetheless. I masturbated to that 3 times that night, back to back to back with no time for recharge. My hormones were off the charts. I used this image as my primary masturbatory source for many months after this, until one day, again while they were on the same couch, they were doing the usual boyfriend-girlfriend puppy love playful stuff when she tackled him, knocking him over. He was a much bigger person than she was, so she had to really contort her body a weird way. This caused her short shorts to shift around her one thigh, exposing her crotch. She wasn't wearing any underwear, and I got a view of this new and improved vagina with a racing stripe that matched what I saw in the magazines. This became my new primary. Anyway, he graduates, she graduates, time skips ahead about a month, and she is going on a senior trip with some of her friends to one of the beaches. I spy on her trying on all the new sexy clothes she bought for the trip. It was seriously like a 2-hour-long private show. It was the time of my life. She leaves and comes back with a tan and nipple rings. Of course I noticed this by spying on her when she got back. This was like throwing a box of fireworks in a wildfire. I was already reeling from the private show, but this introduced a whole new level of feelings. I had to see them again. I had to touch them. And that is exactly what I did. Knowing she was a tremendously heavy sleeper, I had planned on feeling her up at night, over the shirt, very lightly. One night she fell asleep on the couch. It was a floated couch setup, which meant I could hide behind it and walk into the kitchen should she wake up and try to play it cool. So I went over, probably 3 in the morning, and gently rested my hand on her breast. It felt off. It felt muffled, like I was wearing gloves, and almost hollow. Disappointed by this, I slowly reached up her shirt to feel exactly what I was feeling. It was her bra that had partially slipped down. I did not feel breasts at all. I reached my hand up a little further and a little more down towards the cushion, and I feel them. The texture was great. The firmness was great. The rings were everything I imagined them to be. Metal rings in a nipple, what else? I took my hand out and rested it on her athletic butt. I let it rest there for about a minute to then went back to my bedroom and went to sleep after excessive masturbation. This behavior, while few and far between, continued for about 3 or 4 more years after this. My parents eventually divorced and we moved out. I went to college, my mother died, no more opportunities presented itself. I fell out of this deep desire. I met a girl and got married, she got married, and most importantly, I never got caught. I always felt bad about my behavior, and now that I've had about 5 years of removal from it, I know how disturbed this behavior is. I don't know if I was just overcome with hormones and latched onto the first thing available, or if I was just obsessed with her. All I do know is though, after just spending the weekend with her, we are on good terms and there were no impure thoughts. I decided that I have to make sure that all of these thoughts are gone. The shame factor has always been a good driving force and learning tool for me. You see, my sister is about to give birth to a girl, and the last thing I want to do is carry this sick behavior onto another innocent person. This time, to a person that has no possible way to defend herself. I still masturbate about 2 to 3 times a day most days. Huge sex drive, I guess. And if I don't catch myself, I will occasionally think back to those peeping days and use that as material.